Let's take a look at the lead tracker, guys, now. Almost a wire-to-wire win there. Obviously, the first half of that first quarter, Boston found themselves trailing by a narrow margin inside 5 points, guys, but it was all green for the rest of the way. You talk about management in lead control, guys. Boston gave you that through essentially 44 minutes of this game. Celtics, obviously, they got up to as much as a 20-point lead. Cleveland continued to try to chip away, guys. What did you like that Boston did tonight to keep Cleveland's runs under control?
It all started on the defensive end tonight. They did a fantastic job of guarding up on all the Cleveland Cavaliers shooters. They were forcing the Cavaliers to take shots late in the shot clock, and that really led to it being such a low-scoring game that the Celtics could control. And when the shots weren't falling for the Celtics, they were able to make adjustments, started to attack the rim, were able to make adjustments during halftime, during timeouts. Whenever the Cavaliers gained a little bit of momentum, would go on a 7-0 run or something of that sort, you would always see the Celtics find a way to slow down the game, really find their pace and get an open shot that is almost a play that is guaranteed to score every time that the Celtics run it, unless the shot misses. But they're really getting high percentage looks and really finding looks to really get the entire team to play at the same level and function as a collective instead of as individuals, which was the main root of the inconsistent run that we saw. And I'm going to say this. I think that we can lift the turning point ban on Celtics Talk Weekly because I believe
in order. Franco signature.
Yeah, but yeah, I think we can sign that off because I feel like the Celtics team really has had that the energy about to shift moment that Jaylen Brown was quoted for a couple of years back, because this is a team that I really knew needed to pick things up. We were thinking that they were going to wait until after the trade deadline, but all that does is cause a little resilience. The fact that they're able to pick up the ball now, heading into a very challenging schedule run until that All-Star break, which will be well-deserved for the Celtics, will really kind of set the tone going into the rest of the regular season, and also will play a major role when it gets down to the final 10 or so games where you really want to make sure your stars are well rested heading into the playoffs, so you can have those nights that you can have Tatum or Brown really take a rest and not have to worry about, oh, we are losing out on the second seed if we lose this game.
Well, in tonight's matchup against the Cleveland Cavaliers, and we've kind of been talking about this, about the Boston Celtics for the past month. They have the talent. They have one of the best rosters in the league. They're not waking up to play every single night. The Celtics brought their effort tonight, and when they do, they look like a much different basketball team. But specifically talking on this matchup between the Celtics and Cavaliers at the top of the Eastern Conference, in which could be, you never know, could be a conference finals matchup, could be, we're hoping, not a second round matchup. Maybe the Cavs fall to 4. That would be nice. Maybe that happens later on in time. But regardless of when the Celtics and Cavaliers, if they ever do meet each other in the playoffs, this matchup for the Boston Celtics should be a matchup they win every single time. Now, that's not realistic in basketball, of course, but at the same time, you look at all of the different mismatches the Celtics actually have an advantage in out there on the floor. I thought that was the biggest factor in tonight's game, and it's been the biggest factor between the Cavs and the Celtics all season long. Without a hot shooting moment from Donovan Mitchell late in the fourth quarter on December 1st against the Cavaliers, the Celtics are 3-0 against Cleveland this season. And you look at all the roster for Cleveland, you look at all the players for Boston, ultimately Boston can guard every single player the Cavs have. And the Cavs cannot guard every single player the Boston Celtics have. You see on the floor Darius Garland, Georges Niang, Sam Merrill, guys like that, Max Strus, even Karis LeVert at times. All of those players are players the Boston Celtics can go out there and hunt defensively. And even talking on a player like Darius Garland, he can get his offensively, but defensively, Darius Garland, the Celtics are going to pick on him a lot. And in terms of the bench, too, for the Cleveland Cavaliers, there are guys off the bench that they rely on who ultimately the Boston Celtics can pick on. And the biggest mismatch the Celtics have out there on the floor in terms of their advantage in mismatches is Jason Tatum. He was picking apart those mismatches all night long. And that really was the difference in the fourth quarter a lot of the times, because ultimately Derek White, you see him on the top of the screen, but Derek White does not have this type of performance without the help of Jason Tatum tonight. Jason Tatum, regardless of his stat line, he was phenomenal within the playmaking aspect of the game of basketball tonight against the Cleveland Cavaliers. He's been phenomenal as of late, and he's really ascending to a new level within his career that we really have not seen before. His patience, his ability to draw defenders over to himself, his ability to kick out and make the right decision every single time, his ability to go downhill and really put all the eyeballs onto himself. Jason Tatum is reaching a whole new level, and he's bringing a different dynamic to this Boston Celtics team, particularly in this matchup against the Cleveland Cavaliers, where there's a lot of players on the Cleveland Cavaliers who, oh yeah, they're good offensively, but ultimately, if the Boston Celtics, they kind of slow the game down a bit, comes back into the half court, there are a lot of players on the Cleveland Cavaliers, the Boston Celtics want to pick and hunt. And ultimately, on the other end of the floor, the Cleveland Cavaliers, their two scoring guards in Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland, you have Holiday, you have White, two all NBA defenders on those guys, and you feel comfortable within those matchups. And really, it's kind of funny watching the game, because when the Cavaliers are trying to commit to a switch, or rather get a switch on another player aside from White or Holiday, when Mitchell and Garland are out on the floor, it's a switch on to, oh, Derek White. It's a switch on to, oh, Tatum. Oh, it's a switch on to, which Tatum they're not trying to switch on to a lot at all. It just kind of happens within the flow of the defense. But also Kristaps Porzingis out there, and even Peyton Pritchard, he had his little moments down the stretch, I thought, of phenomenal defensive play. And even though he's a smaller player, he can really get after it defensively. Really, the only player on the Celtics roster that the Cleveland Cavaliers can go out there and hunt is Sam Hauser. Outside of Sam Hauser, they're looking at guys like maybe Al Horford, but Al Horford was phenomenal tonight. We've seen him, of course, in the past, this past month. Not just we talked about in the past with Al Horford, but really this past month, he's been phenomenal from a defensive standpoint. So, in terms of the Boston Celtics matching up with the Cleveland Cavaliers, they're going to win the mismatches every single time, and that's really the name of the game in the NBA, is how you can match up against another team. And the Celtics, they have all of the advantages against the Cavs, even though the Cavs are the number one seed right now above the Celtics in the standings. They do it a lot on the offensive end in terms of getting their wins. But you see tonight, when they're held at bay from a defensive standpoint by the Celtics, and of course the Celtics are able to go down there and hunt the mismatches on offense, it's a much different game for the Cleveland Cavaliers, a much different result. And think about it. 2 of their 10 losses this year came against the Boston Celtics, and we'll have to see how that matchup later on in time plays out. But I really do believe if these two teams face off in a playoff series, a lot of people are maybe worried out there. Oh, the Celtics, could they be knocked off by the Cleveland Cavaliers? I think over time the variance will fall towards the Boston Celtics, just because of the mismatches the Boston Celtics have an advantage in out there on the floor, in which we saw a lot tonight.
Yeah, Seamus, I'm gonna sidetrack for 1 second. I'm gonna just go out on a limb right now and just say really quick, if the Cleveland Cavaliers really want a chance to compete for an NBA title, they really need to go out and get someone else. I'm sorry, Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, great, but when you have a core of Max Strus, Harris LeVert, Sam Merrill, Dean Wade, great players, whatever, they're not going to win you championships. I'm sorry. It's just like, if they really want to compete, they're going to have to go out there and they're going to have to get another superstar. But
So
that was but I'll get back to the game. You asked, what did the Celtics do to kind of keep chipping away and just get through it? Couple things tonight. So it all started really for me with Joe Mazzulla. I think, we were up 12 points, right? The lead gets cut down to 6. Joe Mazzulla, timeout. Like Seamus said, we find the mismatch. We find Porzingis down low, wide open layup, wide open dunk. Next possession, we're up 10. Then we go down timeout. we find White in the corner, open Pritchard, three, and just like that, runs over. Momentum's back in Boston's favor. On the defensive side of the ball, I think tonight I saw the Celtics make a tremendous effort on the defensive glass. I told you guys about this. They only really allowed one shot. We're not going to be perfect. There's going to be times where there's offensive rebounds, second chance points. But tonight, for me at least, it was the second chance points coming from the Celtics, specifically early on in the game, and the lack of second chance opportunities for the Cavaliers the entirety of the game. I think that really stood out to me today. And ultimately, I don't know exactly what second chance points were. I'm assuming in favor of the Celtics.
I'm looking right now, actually.
Tonight, it just seemed like we were all over the glass. I was talking to you guys in the group chat all game long.
Actually had more.
What?
Cleveland actually had more than us, but it did not feel like that.
You know what I mean? It really just looked like there were not a lot of second chance threes. When we were getting second chances, we were converting, and if they got a second chance, it seemed like they weren't converting. So that's kind of what stood out to me. Obviously, you fact checked me, but I'm sure you guys can agree. It kind of felt like that tonight, where it was like the Celtics were just everywhere. And you asked originally what happened in this game. Early on, it really was the defense. Like we were talking about, we allowed 15 points in that first quarter, something really small. And the Celtics offense early, it wasn't great, but as the night picked up, I think honestly tonight was a pretty good showing, I'd say, for our offense. I think we had a good balance tonight of threes, points in the paint. We were getting to the line a lot, getting downhill, and just making the right play. But, Rob, you were talking about how you didn't think tonight was a good offensive outing. I honestly disagree. I think that tonight really showed, our threes were falling. We were hitting threes. D. White hit some. Pritchard hit some threes. Had some ISO jack up. But we also got down low. We were getting to the line. I remember this play stood out for me specifically. Late in the game, things were going not great. I think we were up 6 points. Drew Holiday posts up Evan Mobley and gets the foul, and ultimately we go up 8. We know how the rest of the game goes. But it was just, I think, right play after right play after right play, and not forcing. Just an all-around game. We didn't seem to force too much.
Right. I don't disagree necessarily. I thought it was an ugly game in terms of the shot, not necessarily the shot quality, but the shot making. I mean, if you go down the starters were just atrocious in terms of their field goal percentage tonight. I mean, Tatum tonight was 7 of 23. Brown, he had a good game, 7 of 12, 7 of 20 from Porzingis, 1 of 6 from Holiday.
No,
but
Brown took one shot in the second half.
Yeah,
defense.
But for me and Zach, I'm interested to hear on your opinion on how we were able to keep the lead. But for me, the bench was crucial tonight.
Yeah, big time. Hauser, big time.
Yeah, big time.
I agree. I think I would say Horford honestly was maybe our most impactful bench player. I don't think he was the best bench player, but I think he played the most impactful minutes, especially when Porzingis struggled from the field. I honestly hated the way Porzingis played for a large majority of that game, but Horford made a bunch of really tough jump shots, good spot up threes, and he played solid defense. Yeah, I think, and then back to what you said about Hauser, I think you might look at Pritchard as like the most important bench player, but I don't think the Celtics won a title last year without Sam Hauser, to be quite honest, and he might be the key to winning another one this year.
Yeah, I think that when you look at, look at I don't know if you guys are plus minus believers. I know there's like this whole, it's like a pendulum. It swings sometimes. Either you're on it or you're not. I feel like it's a polarizing NBA stat. Personally, makes a lot of sense for me. If you're an impactful player, you check in the game, you're going to make impactful plays. The lead's going to grow. tonight, I mean, Horford plus 19, Pritchard plus 19, Cornette plus 10, Hauser plus 18. Look at the starters. Holiday minus 10, White minus 11, Porzingis minus 2, Brown minus 9. Tatum was the only starter that was positive, and it was just plus 1. So really, I mean, the bench made, to me, the highest. I mean, they were contributing at a very high level. They were knocking down their shots. They were getting active on defense. Not to say the starters weren't, but we talk about tying it together a lot, it feels like. And tonight we weren't really entirely tied together. But, I mean, to get the whole – it's very rare you see the whole bench unit impact a game like they did tonight. Normally it's like 1 or 2 guys, right? And normally it's like Pritchard gets you 18, or, you know, Hauser's giving you 12, or Cornette's coming off and giving you his little, 10 and 7, or Horford's giving you 4-3, right? It's never really like, here's Al with a double-double. Here's Cornette making some big-time plays with a steal and a couple buckets. There's Hauser with a couple steals and a couple. It was a full effort out of the 4 bench players tonight, guys. And I think that was, when you really look at it, I mean, that was huge to get your bench up and playing on the road against the number 1 seed in the East. I mean, championship stuff from the bench tonight.